Okay, coming in real late with my recap for last week. Recording this on my lunch break while I'm working from home today, so you're fucking welcome. Haha, if anybody even is gonna watch this. But regardless, crazy fucking week. Bengals game happened last night, and I could go on for fucking days about how much bullshit that was. Obviously, Joe Burrow getting hurt on a non-contact injury, frustrating. A lot of ghost PI calls, also very frustrating. Crazy frustrating game to watch as a Bengals fan, just in general, just everything that occurred. Work with some pretty obnoxious Ravens fans, so that was kind of tough. Made a straight bet with one of my coworkers, lost that bet, obviously. But it's one of those fans where he's like, "No, we dogged you guys, we destroyed you guys. That was light work. That was easy. We had the momentum the whole time." And it's like, we were good until fucking Joey B got hurt. We had the lead until Joey B got hurt. So super tough game. But regardless, I'm gonna try and make this one fairly quick. So I'm just going to hop right into last week's predictions. So last week I predicted that I was going to get a dub. Did not. Just can't. My team just cannot put a decent week together. It's crazy to me. Connor Walsh kind of making a little comeback here. 128. I scored 93. So that ain't gonna get the job done, unfortunately. So that's an incorrect prediction right there. Next, we have Connor versus Adam. I did get this one correct with Connor pulling out the dub, 132.64 to 92.76. And let me just say, shout out Connor, because we had the same record 2 weeks ago, and now this man is all evened up and has a legit shot at the playoffs. So 5-5, good on you, Connor. Turning your team around. You've had put together some pretty good weeks the last few weeks. So good for you, my man. Next, we have Dalton versus Dawson. I picked Dawson in this matchup, and he did pull it out. I know Dalton has been on a little bit of a stinker as of the last few weeks, so unfortunate to see, but good for you, Dawson. Next, we have a Ryan versus a Bess, and I was really pulling for you, Bess. I wanted you to kind of pull that one out. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I did think your time was coming, and that you had one that was gonna turn it around for you. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Next, we have a Colin versus a Hunter. I did pick Colin in this matchup, and it was a whomping. Colin pulling out the dub by 50 points. Hunter looking like lowest score of the week. Let me see. Did you start your full lineup? Let me see. I feel like you didn't start your full lineup here, Hunter. You did. You just had New York Giants getting a -8. Hoo-wee! Kenny Pickett with 6. And then you had a 0 in Van Jefferson. I don't know if he was listed as out going into that game or not, but that's a tough one. Next, we have a Matthew Reynolds who came in with a name change. Changed it from, I cannot remember what it was. For some reason, I think it was Hole Fillers, and now it's just Yes. So that was a Matt versus a Blake, and that's definitely matchup of the week. Matt coming out with a 160 bomb from a big game from TJ Hawkinson, Jamar Chase, and Chris Olave. And then Blake putting together a respectable game. Would have literally beat anybody else this week. Would have beat any other team in the league except for Matt, and that's who he happened to play. So very unfortunate. Keenan Allen pulling out a big old 40 bomb. Shout out that old ass fucking man pulling out 40 points out of the bag. Good on him. So, and I picked Matt in that, by the way. So, just so you all know, which makes my predictions for last week 4 for 6. So not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. We'll take that. Next, we're going into this week, and this one is a little bit tough. Obviously, all of us kind of had some players play. So it's going to make my predictions a little bit biased here. I'm playing Matt this week, so coming off a guy that just dropped like a 160 bomb, a little bit tough. I will say he didn't have the best start to his week. I think he has some guys on bye this week, so very unfortunate for Mr. Reynolds. Obviously, we know that I'm picking myself, so let's just get that out of the way. Jake which is me, getting the W. Had a tough one start off with Jamar Chase, only scored 9.2. He had 2 targets, 12 yards, and a touchdown. Good thing that he salvaged the touchdown at the end. Good for Jamar Chase, but regardless, super tough to see a talent like Jamar not getting the looks he should be getting. And I think that's kind of been the case all year, which has been a little bit unfortunate. He has similar stats to some other like rookie receivers that, I mean, that shouldn't be the case. He needs to get better looks because we run our offense through him. Next, we have a Connor Walsh versus a Adam Burbrink. I have to pick Connor. I think he had his little lull, which is expected to happen, and he kind of came back from it. So I think he's on his way back up. I don't think we're going to see Connor Walsh below the 120 mark too many times for the rest of the year. So I think he's going to be a tough one to beat. Next, we have a Connor Daniels versus a Dawson Hogan. Obviously, you had Gus Edwards. Dawson dropped 21 points, so that's a pretty big one there. And then we had Connor with Mark Andrews, unfortunately, only dropping 4 points. So pretty tough. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Connor in this situation just because he's been on a little bit of a heater as of late. So I think he's gonna keep that ball rolling there. Next, we have a Bess versus a Dalton. You had Lamar play last night and Ravens defense. So even with some good scores, Bess, it looks like your prediction's not too high there. So I'm not sure what's going on with your team right now. I am going to give it to you, though. Just because Dalton's been putting out some stinkers as of recent. So until Dalton has a big bounce back week, I just can't confidently, put my money on him. Next, we have Hunter versus Ryan Chance. Hunter's already off to a strong start this week. Joe Mixon and Justin Tucker with double-digit points. Joe Mixon with 21, Justin Tucker with 11. So that's a pretty good start to the week for Hunter. I mean, this is a little bit biased, a little bit unfair prediction. I'm going to have to put it on Hunter. Obviously, he's had a good start already with those two players. So it's going to be, he's kind of set himself up for success there. But it is what it is. Next, we have a Blake Benson versus a Colin Higas. It's definitely a tough one. I think Blake's going to pull this one out, though, if I'm being honest, just because he had a really great week last week. I think he's kind of due for a bounce back. I think he's due for a dub. So that's where I'm at with that. Regardless, I'll wrap this up by talking a little bit more, kind of venting a little bit more about that Bengals game. Super tough game. Every time that we were on third down, needed to convert, like that first series that Jake Browning was in, had that first down pass to Trent Irwin. In my opinion, he had possession. I agree that it touched the ground, but I think he had possession prior to that anyways. I don't think that can be considered a drop because he caught the ball, he rolled over with the ball on top of him, and then as he started to get back up, the ball scraped the ground. And if that play wouldn't have happened, we wouldn't have had to give the ball back to the Ravens going into halftime when they scored that last touchdown to Rashad Bateman. And, I mean, maybe we got 3 points out of it. Maybe we got a touchdown out of it. Maybe we just ran the clock out for the rest of the half and they don't score that touchdown. Regardless, frustrating because on the back end of that, every time that Ravens needed to convert a third and long, especially because they weren't converting them, but they were getting bailed out by PIs. Like when Lamar Jackson on that drive where they scored, we're going into halftime, he threw a dog shit ball way over, I can't remember whose head it was, way over somebody's head. Very little contact, but regardless, not a catchable ball, not even in the same vicinity as that receiver. PI. And then also, don't get me started, fucking Nelson Aguilar is so dog shit. He's so dog shit that he scored a touchdown. And if you saw the play, you understand what I'm saying. We had 2 players tip the ball. They were throwing to Isaiah Likely, I think. 2 players tip the ball, and Nelson Aguilar is just running there, and then he looks down, and the ball's just fucking in his hands, and he's like, has a direct lane to the end zone. He's like, oh, I guess I'll fucking score. So, abso-fucking-lutely ridiculous that they got that lucky touchdown. And then just chaining those things together. I mean, it was just like Joe Burrow was out and the refs just didn't want us to give a chance. And I mean, I know everybody's probably saw the clip online if you've seen any kind of social media. I think it was the same drive when they scored before halftime, but they got 20 or 30 yards on a PI with who is it? DJ Turner, our cornerback, where he was nowhere. It wasn't even touching him, wasn't holding him. It wasn't even close to a PI. Ball wasn't even in the air when he was touching him. And the second the ball was thrown, it wasn't touching him. He was actually underneath him. He kind of got beat on the play, but he didn't touch the guy. And they called a fucking PI on it. Like, it wasn't even, there was no contact in it. So, I mean, it's just crazy to see stuff like that. And I mean, I would just really, even if we lost, I would have really just loved to actually have a fair matchup. I mean, I would love to have Joe Burrow in there, and I'd love for those refs not to be absolute cockheads. Because especially if Joe can't pull something off, throw a brace on and make it work and come back next week, I hate to say it. I typically am the kind of person that has blind faith for as long as possible. I'm a denier of negativity when it comes to the Bengals. But if Joe Burrow's not back next week, we're done. I mean, there's zero shot making the playoffs. We're 5-5 now. There's just no shot we're going to make the playoffs if Joe Burrow's not back next week. So unfortunate, but we'll be optimistic. Hopefully that means we get a decent draft pick next year. We've been playing too good, and we've been having to pick too late in the draft. So maybe that means we get a couple of those weapons, a couple of those pieces that we need to bring our team together into a well-rounded team. Hopefully we keep T in the offseason, and all of our other offensive guys. We really need to bring in a good tight end. If we bring in a good tight end, I think we can put the pieces together, because the Bengals also fucking 4 times two times they saved it by burning a timeout, but 2 other delay of games. I mean, just absolutely unacceptable. I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think the numbers that we gave up in penalties yesterday is definitely over 100 yards, but absolutely ridiculous. Regardless, good luck to everyone going into this week. We need to be better about sending locks, and I do have something I want to say about that. When we're talking about sending locks in there, just send locks. I know we always like to joke around and shoot the shit and whatever, but if we're talking about sending locks, just send some locks in there and you can shoot the shit after, but get it all in a concentrated thread where we just send locks and stop, bullshitting and talking a bunch of smack. When we talk about that, let's just fucking find the lock, screenshot, send it, throw together maybe a little parlay on it, maybe play straight bets, whatever it is. But let's make some fucking money, boys. Come on. That ESPN bet, they got those promotional bets. Let's make some fucking money. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Well, good day to the rest of you. Everybody. This episode is sponsored by this off-brand Stanley. Awala. Boom.